time is precisely 6:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe and read by Chandima Virakon. Headlines. The Attorney General receives Easter Sunday Commission report. 500,000 more COVID vaccines brought to the country. GCE O-level students get the opportunity to obtain national identity cards tomorrow as well. The case against Hirunika Premachandra will be heard on the 10th of next month. In news overseas, Australia passes law to make Google and Facebook pay for news. In sports news, Olympic torch relay, COVID-19 measures announced. Local stories in detail. The AG's coordinating officer Nishara Jayaratne said Attorney General Dappula Dilevera today received the Volume 1 of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry report on the Easter Sunday attacks from the President's Secretary. She said the AG has also requested the President's Secretary to submit all proceedings, documents and material of the Commission of Inquiry pertaining to Easter Sunday attacks. The Ministry of Health says that another 447 COVID-19 patients have recovered and discharged from the hospital within the last 24 hours. This brings the total number of COVID-19 recoveries in the country to 76,961. A total of 81,467 cases of coronavirus have been reported in Sri Lanka so far, while 4,049 of them are currently under medical care. Sri Lanka's death toll due to the virus stands at 457. Meanwhile, vaccinations were given to the people in high-risk areas in Colombo. COVID vaccines were given to police officers yesterday. Nearly 18,000 police officers have been vaccinated so far. Prisons Commissioner and media spokesman Chandana Ekanayaka said 30 COVID-infected inmates from prisons today have been vaccinated. He said that 4,477 inmates and 136 officers have recovered from the virus and another 159 inmates and 20 officers are undergoing treatment. The Colombo High Court has ordered to take up the case filed against former MP Hirunika Premachandra over the alleged abduction of a youth in the Matagoda area by a Defender Jeep on the 10th of last month. Earlier, the Colombo High Court imposed suspended sentences on 7 accused after they pleaded guilty for the offence. A condolence motion on the death of former Speaker W.J.M. Lokubandara was taken up today in Parliament. Presenting the motion, Leader of the House, Minister Dinesh Gunawardena said late Speaker Lokubandara was a true people's politician. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa said that late Mr. Lokubandara engaged in politics while winning over the opponents. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa said that Mr. Lokubandara was undoubtedly an astute politician. Expressing his views, State Minister Kanaka Herath pointed out that Mr. Lokubandara rendered an immense service to popularise the local medical system. Minister Bandula Gunawardena said that Mr. Lokubandara was a leader with many skills. Minister Johnston Fernando said Mr. Lokubandara was a politician who performed his duties properly in all posts. Mr. Fernando said late Mr. Lokubandara supported Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa strategically to win the war. MP Sathanayaka said Mr. Lokubandara was an honest villager who maintained a virtuous life. State Minister Janaka Wakkumbra pointed out that the late Speaker Lokubandara was an exemplary politician who performed many services, including providing Dhamma education to children. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with the local stories, the 121st Ratana Sutra chanting organised by the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation takes place this evening from Napoli Buddhist Temple, Naples, Italy. The Ratana Sutra chanting will be held under the guidance of the chief monk of the temple, Venerable Panangala Vajra Jnana Thero. It will be broadcast at 6:30 p.m. over SLBC Sinhala Commercial Service, City FM and regional services. To end the local news, the headlines once again. The Attorney General receives Easter Sunday Commission report. 500,000 more COVID vaccines brought to the country. GCE O-level students get the opportunity to obtain national identity cards tomorrow as well. The case against Hirunika Premachandra will be heard on the 10th of next month. That ends local news.
A mother knows the pain of each member of the family. Siddhalepa, the trusted relief for aches and pains.
An effective therapy for relief from cold, sneezing, flu, headaches, swelling due to toothaches, rheumatic, discomforts, and muscular aches and pains. Siddhalepa, the Veda Mahatmya in every home.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Veda Mahatmya.
On the main news story, State Minister Professor Channa Jasmine said a consignment of 500,000 doses of Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines purchased from India arrived in Sri Lanka this afternoon. State Pharmaceutical Corporation recently signed an order with Serum Institute of India for 10 million doses of the vaccine for $52.5 million. The first batch of vaccines under the purchase agreement was delivered to Sri Lanka today. That ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Veda Mahatmya. Brush your teeth twice a day for healthy teeth and gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, your trusted brands in oral care for many years.
Supiriviki Ayurvedic toothpaste for adults. Kakulu Ayurvedic toothpaste for kids. 9 Ayurvedic ingredients of Supiriviki will protect your teeth and strengthen your gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, products from Siddhalepa.
Moving on to Watchlight, the head office and selected regional offices of the Department for Registration of Persons will be open tomorrow to issue national identity cards for candidates facing the 2020 ordinary level examination. Accordingly, the head office of the department in Batramulla and the regional offices of Gaul, Kurunagala, Vaunia and Batiklo will remain open despite it being a public holiday. Meanwhile, candidates who have not received their admission cards for the examination can download the same from the official website of the Department of Examinations, www.doenets.lk. That ends Watchlight.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
From the first step you take till the time we meet, the trusted leader prioritizes you always.
All you need under one roof. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Headlines of the world news. Australia passes law to make Google and Facebook pay for news. Israel and Bahrain leaders discuss Netanyahu visit and vaccine plant. India and Pakistan militaries agreed to stop cross-border firing. Australia has passed a world-first law aimed at making Google and Facebook pay for news content on their platforms. The News Code legislation had been fiercely opposed by the US tech giants. Last week, Facebook blocked all news content to Australians over the row, but reversed its decision this week after negotiations with the government. Following those talks, the law passed with new amendments which make it possible for Facebook and Google not to be subject to the code. However, both companies have now committed to paying lucrative sums to some big Australian publishers outside of the code. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Bahrain's Crown Prince Sheikh Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa today discussed the Gulf states' possible involvement in establishing a vaccine plant in Israel. The two leaders also discussed a possible visit by Netanyahu to Bahrain once coronavirus restrictions would allow it, it said in a statement. The militaries of India and Pakistan said in a rare joint statement today that they had agreed to observe a ceasefire along the disputed border in Kashmir, having exchanged fire hundreds of times in recent months. The nuclear-armed neighbours signed a ceasefire agreement along the line of control in the Kashmir region in 2003, but the truce has frayed in recent years and there have been mounting casualties among villagers living close to the de facto border. To end the world news, the headlines again. Australia passes law to make Google and Facebook pay for news. Israel and Bahrain leaders discuss Netanyahu visit and vaccine plant. India and Pakistan militaries agree to stop cross-border firing. That ends World News.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
From the first step you take till the time we meet, the trusted leader prioritizes you always.
All you need under one roof. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Moving on to development news. A new forest conservation office is scheduled to be set up at Dharaniyagala, Maliboda area in the Kagala district, where there are many forest reserves. It has been decided to set up an office following a proposal at Gamasamaga Pilisandarak program, which was held at Dik Allakanda area under the patronage of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Kagala District Forest Officer Ashoka Bandara Herath said that the office would be set up soon. That ends development news. On to sports news. It's Olympics, cricket and golf. In Olympics, the Tokyo Olympic Organizing Committee has announced a set of measures against the coronavirus for the nationwide torch relay that is due to start next month. The committee today released its guidelines for the 121-day-long relay, which starts on March 25th in Fukushima Prefecture. It asks that people refrain from going to see portions of the relay held outside their prefectures. The committee says it will prevent large crowds from gathering along the route by live streaming the relay. In cricket news, Martin Guptill fell 3 runs short of a third 2020 international century as he helped New Zealand to a thrilling 4-run win over Australia in Dunedin. The opener smashed 8 sixes and 6 fours on his way to 97 off 50 balls as the host posted 219 for 7. Australia rallied from 113 for 6 with Marcus Stoinis hitting 78 off 37 deliveries before he was caught off the penultimate ball of the game. Victory gave New Zealand a 2-0 lead in the 5-match series. The third game takes place in Wellington on Wednesday. In golf, Tiger Woods will not face any criminal charges following the single car crash he was involved in on Tuesday that left him with serious injuries. The U.S. golfing champion was driving alone on a Los Angeles downhill stretch of road known for crashes. His SUV hit the central reservation, crossed into the opposite lane, rolled over several times and then plunged off the road and down an embankment. He is recovering after surgery to his fractured leg and shattered ankle. That ends sports news.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
On business news, Commercial Bank of Ceylon plc returned to its pre-pandemic performance in the 3 months to 31st December 2020, indicating that the country's largest private lender is ready to look past the pandemic. The bank managed to record a higher net interest income of 14.1 billion rupees for the quarter, up 18% year-on-year. That ends business news.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic News. Courtesy of...
Hello, Puta. Did you land already?
We're in transit and our flight got delayed.
How is Shani? Poor thing with her pregnancy.
Calm down, everything is sorted. Why, I have my LOLC World Card with me. We are at the VIP lounge.
LOLC Finance Credit Cards. Fuel the goodness in you.
And on economic news, after the exporters were asked to convert 25% of their dollar proceeds into rupees immediately after receiving them, the licensed banks are required to sell 50% of those foreign currency proceeds back to the central bank. The latest measure was among a string of measures introduced by the central bank to rebuild the foreign currency reserves from non-borrowed sources, after seeing some depletion due to the challenges posed by the pandemic. That ends economic news.
Congratulations on your promotion. It will be our treat, huh?
How about today?
Oh no, I was just joking.
It's fine. I have my LOLC credit card with me. Let's go out today.
Introducing LOLC Finance Credit Cards. Fuel the goodness in you.
And finally on the weather report, The Met Department says showers or thundershowers will occur at several places in the southern province and in the Ratnapura and Munaragala districts during the evening or at night. Fairly heavy falls, about 50 millimeters, can be expected at some places in these areas. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the central, Sabaragamuwa, Uva and western provinces and in the Gaul and Mathura districts during the morning. That ends the weather report. And to conclude this bulletin of news, the headlines again. The Attorney General receives Easter Sunday Commission report. 500,000 more COVID vaccines brought to the country. GCE O-level students get the opportunity to obtain national identity cards tomorrow as well. The case against Hirunika Premachandra will be heard on the 10th of next month. In news overseas, Australia passes law to make Google and Facebook pay for news. In sports, Olympic torch relay COVID-19 measures announced. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.